This is an Audio Wool original.
This episode of Frightday is brought to you by Spring-Heeled Jack Coffee. You need great coffee. Jack delivers. Visit springhieldjack.coffee.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/frightday.
Now you're just going to tell me, yep, your account has been disabled.
Oh, you're bad.
I wish I would have done something at least to deserve it. I don't like that I can't even appeal.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being grounded for no reason.
What was that movie with Claire Danes about getting thrown in prison in like some foreign country?
Oh, no idea.
Really?
It is Frightday.
Broke Down Palace. There we go.
Ah, yes.
Bam.
BDP.
Nailed it.
I'm your host, Byron. And work-life balance can be a hard thing to achieve. Leaving the rough day at the door while you attempt to enjoy the company of your family, but that can be especially difficult when you're a high-paid near-future corporate assassin. And we'll talk about Kelly's day job tonight as we review Brandon Cronenberg's Possessor. And
Can you imagine anybody that would be worse at that job?
no, I can't, but we will talk about that.
Like, honestly, if I was trying to wander around in somebody else's body.
Did you know there was an election
Heard about that a little.
to determine who's going to be the next president of the United States? We're probably not going to discuss that, but we will be talking Truman and his UFO White House call. It's the 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO incident in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and
incident?
UFO incident in this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies. I'm joined tonight by Kelly.
Oh, hello.
And Sam can't make it because he's at work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's much better at the assassin thing than I am.
It feels like a million years has gone by since we recorded last time.
Yeah, it's a fully new lifetime.
A lot has changed in the past few weeks.
So let's just give a quick rundown.
Sure.
Okay, so our home state is now run by a man who is going to use money to teach our kids that cavemen rode dinosaurs.
That's accurate, and he will choke slam you if you disagree.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time you came here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here.
Yep, you will. Some people believe we have a new president. Other people do not.
Just said we're not going to talk about
I'm
that.
just throwing it out there, just to recap.
All right.
I cut 8 inches off my hair, and it's very crooked.
It's like 7.5 on one side, 8 on the other.
My sister's coming over tomorrow to watch Klaus.
We don't need to
and
talk about
fix
that.
my hair.
But you should tune in if you do like Christmas movies. You should tune into the third season of Most Wonderful Pod of the Year that just started. It's a part of the Audio Wool Network. I'm the producer.
Wait, hold on. Why am I not on that show?
But you could be. We could probably arrange something. Yeah.
What do you talk about on that show?
I'm not on the show. I'm the producer of the Most Wonderful Pod of the Year.
What do you produce your people to talk about on that show?
It's Ross Kimball and Jackie DeRuthi, and they review Christmas movies.
Okay, well, I clearly need to have a guest bit on that.
We will work at that. You're not a famous comedian, not yet, and don't eat chili cheese organic chips into the mic. I'm feeling a lot like Alex Jones these days.
Are you?
Well, yeah.
Because I left that part out of the recap. You share it, B.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we did. We're being censored, though, by the globalist, Soros-funded left. I don't know who's doing it at this point because we've been banned off Facebook.
Completely. But not just our page.
Personally.
Personal accounts. Like, I have photos up there literally of relatives who are now
Deceased.
dead.
You can't access those
They
pictures.
don't have anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been on Facebook since 2007 or 8 and now gone. You, me, Sam, and unfortunately the managing editor at Frightday.com, Alex, was part of this ban hammer dropping down on us. I don't know.
It's just weird because we didn't get a notice that we had violated anything.
No.
There was no warning. We weren't even told that everything was revoked. I just went to try and log in yesterday afternoon, was like, oh, okay, it's been disabled. It won't let us appeal it because apparently whatever we did was so egregious that it's not appealable.
No, community guide.
Yeah. So it's one of two things. Either A, someone hacked into it and posted something horrible.
No one saw anything because
And it got yanked.
the Facebook group is still up. It just has no mods, so no new people can go in. We can't see what's going on there.
Yeah. I mean, I trust all the people there to run it safely, or it's just because we have conspiracies in our... But again, like, we're fighting the good fight. We're fighting
Exactly.
the bad conspiracies.
I don't know what to say. Given the context of our show, the decision should be reversed, but...
God, I hope so. Just long enough to get my pictures. But hey, you know what's really cool? Is now I'm one of those hip young trendsetters on Discord.
Discord.frightday.com. Check it out. We set up an emergency server that might just be where we start hanging out now, as long as they don't... ban us too. The podcast that I do distribution for, QAnon Anonymous, recently had their Discord server deleted for having QAnon in their name, even though their intention is to dispel theories of QAnon and associated theories. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on. We're just trying to do our best here, trying to be good folk.
You know what was really uncomfortable? I was like super panicky about it. Like it was this really panicky yuck feeling that I had.
Yeah, you just like run through all these things in your head. What did I do wrong? Did I post something about the Clinton body count?
I know. I mean, I guess we did an episode about Trump being a racist and there being a Clinton or Trump being a rapist.
Yeah.
And a racist.
Yeah.
And there being a Clinton body count, like on the same episode.
Topical.
Very topical, and I feel the need to preface it by saying I in no way intend to sway a political belief or opinion today, but rather hope to provide all you wonderful co-captains with information about the conspiracies surrounding both of our primary political candidates for president this year.
We're talking Hillary and Trump conspiracies?
Yeah, and let me just tell you, there are a lot.
Yeah, but that was behind a paywall at patreon.com/Frightday or cult.frightday.com. I'm going to say I don't think we've done anything wrong. We'll just have to wait and see what Facebook does, because I don't know. But if you want to keep in touch with us, discord.frightday.com. I've also started a mailing list, which will be mailinglist.frightday.com if you want to, just in case this Facebook thing is permanent. Also, we do have Twitter, at Byron McKoy on Twitter, at Kelly Frightday, at Sam Frightday, at Frightday. There's lots of ways to keep in touch with us. But yeah, we miss our Facebook group. You guys were literally the only reason I had Facebook, and now I don't have Facebook. So
yeah,
I don't know.
It's very sad.
It is sad. We have a great community there, and I would hate to lose it. Are you okay?
I'm okay.
You could also join the Frightday Society. We've had a handful of new folks over there, and when I give a quick shout out to some new members, I'm going to start doing this early in the show. Aaron C., Tim H., and Unicorn Merc. Thank you guys so much for joining us there. I don't even know if I can joke about it being a cult anymore. I don't know what I can do. Unsure. But yeah, cult.frightday.com, lots of great perks there. Folks did start getting some badges, and there's going to be, I have a new opportunity for you guys to move up in our organization coming soon. So I guess it's time for folks to enter our little video store and ask us for our advice. It's time for staff picks.
They say so much, but they never tell you if it's any good.
Werewolf movie with P.T.'s mom in it.
The Howling, horror straight ahead.
So
The song.
Yeah, your addition to it is totally fine. That is not what it is, and it's pretty obvious you haven't listened to our podcast since we've started Staff Picks, or else you would certainly know that there's a theme that sounds nothing like that and does end with.
I know, but I was trying to jazz it up a bit.
Well, I think the one that's there is actually quite good. It does end with the character from Scream, Randy, being asked a question about the movie in which E.T.'s mom is in. It's The Howling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
was like, wait a second, what? Because my brain's been fixated on Elliot from E.T. because I've been watching Bly Manor.
Is that right? So is that your staff pick you're going to go with?
No.
Okay. Well, do you want to start?
No. You go ahead.
Okay. I started Bria Grant's new film, 12-Hour Shift.
You lost thousands of dollars worth of organs.
If I don't bring him a kidney, I'm dead. I can still get you a kidney. You got all the organs inside. How dead are you? Perfect.
Did you pour bleach down that man's throat?
Yeah.
What the hell did you do?
Is it Bria or Brea?
It's Bria.
Huh.
Been a fan of her for a long time. She played Ryan Chambers, Dexter's girlfriend on Dexter. She was the host of a podcast that I've talked about way, way back in the day, Mystic Party.
What? Mystic Party?
Uh-huh. She was in Beyond the Gates.
Hold on, did she die?
Still very much alive. She's the director of the film I'm talking about tonight, but she was Jeremy Gardner's girlfriend in After Midnight, also known as, what was it called before? Something Else is the name of it.
Oh, I don't remember. I can tell you about the jeans.
You certainly can. You've said that a lot. But she directed this film called 12 Hour Shift, which is a black comedy thriller film. Bodies start to pile up when a drug-addicted nurse and her crazed cousin try to find a replacement kidney for an organ trafficker. Things don't go very well for her.
Oh.
I'm enjoying it so far. I haven't gotten too deep, but David Arquette is also in this film. Mick Foley, the professional wrestler. So very much looking forward to finishing this. I'm sorry he didn't have time to watch it to completion. We were all hands on deck with this whole Facebook thing, and I feel like a failure.
It was a bit of a nightmare.
Was it to do?
So Byron, doing staff picks reminds me of when I used to go to restaurants and order food.
Okay.
It's really challenging for me to just order something on the menu as written.
Well, yeah,
it's
you
really
do
challenging
have
for
several
me to just
food allergies, and you're strange.
both. Exactly. Same with staff picks. So here's the thing. I'm looking for things for me as a staff member to watch that I haven't watched. Mm-hmm. So I'm picking a staff pick that I haven't seen.
Why do you do that?
Because it looks really, really good. Okay, and somewhat selfishly, I would like to get a little feedback from our peeps before I commit to it because it's a series.
Okay.
It is only one season. It was canceled. But for people who like found footage, like me, for people who like Oren Pelly, like me, for people who are willing to watch a single season series.
Are you about to talk about The River?
Yes.
We're filming a species that perhaps no one has ever seen before. You get that?
We got it.
In the heart of the Amazon,
We'll see you next week, I hope.
a legendary explorer has gone.
Your father, he's not dead. They found his beacon.
So they go in, find a boat.
That was from inside.
From executive producer Steven Spielberg. Crack it open. Ooh, it stinks. And director of Paranormal Activity, Oren Pelly. It's like a ritual. Oh, bodies are being possessed and tossed. Gets worse at night.
We're not leaving this close to finding your father. Someone survived.
Could you even leave?
What's that?
Hello? What the hell was that?
Only on ABC. I love The River. I watched it when it was happening.
It good?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite series. I'm sure I've even brought it up on the show before.
Probably. That doesn't mean that I would remember that
Very
at all.
true. Yeah. This is interesting. The concept of staff picks is to be giving people advice about what they should watch in the film genre, but it seems like the tables
Okay, but I'm giving people advice to watch this
Actually,
because
you're
it
just
looks really good.
You're just
I mean,
asking
I've done
the
research
question.
on it.
Have you?
I've done my research.
All right. Yes, you probably have. I can't see in my notes where I've talked about The River, but
Okay, so tell me this. This is the thing I need to know, Byron, before I actually fully this is my staff pick.
2012 it came out on ABC.
And since it was only a single season.
Basically a half season too. It was a mid-season replacement for something.
Yes, I know. Stop reading the Wikipedia page. Listen to me.
Okay.
Does it end in a way that's remotely satisfying, or does it feel like it was cut off in the middle since it wasn't renewed?
Oh, it's one of those things that's like where the world suddenly gets bigger. Do you remember the end of season 1 of The Walking Dead where they get to the CDC and then the world is a lot bigger than Atlanta?
No, but okay.
Okay, well.
Okay.
I think it's worth watching. It was disappointing that it didn't come back because I thought it was kind of cool. It's got some fun supernatural elements. It's also... Is it a found footage?
It is a found footage.
Yeah.
It was like...
I think it's actually a... What would the proper term be for both?
What?
I believe it's both.
Found footage and normie?
Yeah. What would we call that?
Regular?
No, it's both.
Hybrid?
Hybrid. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. That's enough for me then. This is my staff pick for the week.
Fantastic. Great.
Watch it, and if you've already watched The River, please let me know if you liked it.
Where is it?
Any dead children, Byron?
It was 8 years ago, Kelly. I have no idea.
Well, fucking, you're the one that's supposed to have a memory.
I try. There's just so much. But this has been staff picks. We're going to kick you out of the video store now. Oh, that's not... Okay.
It's a good one.
I'm trying not to let my attitude bring the show down, Kelly.
I know, you're very upset, and I don't blame you. I was, like, really traumatized last night, but then, you know...
Give me Zuck's number.
You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit, Byron.
I just want to see his number. Let me reach out to Zuck.
Wouldn't that be funny? I mean, luckily, we do have a couple of people with inroads, since there literally is no way...
That's the strangest thing, is we've had to do back channels, like ex-employees reaching out to current employees and like handfuls of friends of higher-ups. It's been like a shadow thing.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It is very strange. Don't get me wrong. I am actually totally okay with a private company censoring nonsense.
Oh, sure.
Especially when it's destructive, harmful nonsense. But like, we actually actively dispel harmful conspiracy theories. Like, we've dedicated lots of energy to doing that.
Yeah.
I just wish that there was a remedy. I don't like feeling powerless, but we are powerless because it's just the way it is.
Because we're not alone.
Well, yeah. Yes, I would agree we aren't alone.
In the universe.
Or in the White House.
In this week's edition of Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies.
I'm not dehydrated. I've got, like, my blood is Rockstar energy drink at this point.
Mm-hmm. Those things actually actively dehydrate you.
I know. I feel awful.
All right, guys. You've heard us talk a lot about 1947 in UFO history.
Big year, Roswell.
It was a big year, for sure. But arguably the second biggest year of the 20th century in UFO history was 1952. And so what was so special about 1952? There had been a big whole flap of UFOs. A bunch of people seeing UFOs all over the place, all right? Project Sign had been going, Project Grudge, and now it was time for the birth of Project Blue Book in March of 1952. Though UFOs have been discussed and there was certainly some national publicity for the Roswell incident and a couple other small things, this was the year where the widely respected national media really started rolling on UFOs. April 7th to be exact, of 1952, Life magazine, the most read magazine at the time, had an issue with Marilyn Monroe on the front and an article named on the front titled, "Have We Visitors from Outer Space?" They reviewed 10 recent sightings, essentially some investigative journalism about, okay, are these all hoaxes? Are they hallucinations? And their conclusion was there's no way that all of them were.
I don't see that on the cover, Kelly. The one I'm reading says there is a case for interplanetary saucers.
Oh, yes. Sorry, the article itself was titled, "Have We Visitors from Outer Space?" On the cover, it says there's a case for interplanetary saucers.
Just clarify.
Yes, sorry. Along with these 10 sighting reviews, they had an interview with an unnamed Air Force intelligence officer. Now, keep in mind, this is before it would be a likelihood that this was some absolute made-up thing. Life magazine was going out on a limb to publish this story because nobody at their level had done this yet. Mm-hmm. This unnamed Air Force intelligence officer said, the higher you go in the Air Force, the more seriously they take flying saucers. And people went crazy. That article was covered in more than 350 newspapers across America. As you might imagine, people started reporting a lot more sightings. Now, you could argue on one side that they started reporting the sightings because of the power of suggestion, that they were reporting them to get attention. You could also completely go to the opposite side and say now people were feeling more comfortable to report them because life had normalized it and they didn't feel like complete freak shows for reporting it.
Now I'm nervous about disinformation, though. Are they distracting with this beautiful image of Marilyn Monroe?
Well, I mean, they certainly got a lot of people to read it with that image of Marilyn Monroe. Speaking of which, I'm reading a kick-ass book that one of our listeners recommended to me that talks a lot about Marilyn and JFK assassination stuff. And I think we're going to get into that sometime in the next few weeks, Byron.
For
I think
Valentine's
that might be my next
Day.
Oh, you want me to save it for V-Day?
That might be fun.
I mean, I would rather honor like a non-extramarital affair for V-Day.
I guess that's true. I could do some sort of bow and arrow killer. That could be fun.
Okay, so we'll deal with killers on Valentine's Day later.
Great.
So the number of UFO sightings went through the roof. They had 23 UFO sightings to the Air Force specifically. 23 in March. That was before Life's article. 82 in April. 79 in May.
All right.
And then 150 in June.
So that is going up quite a bit.
Yeah, up by a lot. And then by mid-July, Captain Ruppelt, who was the head of Project Blue Book for the Air Force, their official study team for the UFOs, he was getting 40 reports a day. Now, obviously, a lot of these were fake, but some of them were coming from pilots and other highly reputable human beings, and Ruppelt was taking them seriously.
Oh, these are going up as sharp as COVID cases.
Yeah, I mean, this is pre-Hynek, but Ruppelt was giving it his all, okay? Here's where things get super strange, Byron. Valiant Thor strange.
175 strange.
Or like Philadelphia Experiment strange, where two guys jump off a boat and land on grass.
Yeah, that one's behind a paywall cult.frightday.com.
Sorry. Okay. So a few days before the core sightings for our report tonight, the sightings over the White House, a few days before that, Ruppelt interviewed a government scientist who made a very strange prediction. And Ruppelt actually wrote about this prediction in his memoir, The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, if you want to look that up.
Well, it'll probably be in the show notes of this episode of Frightday.com, right?
Of course it will. The scientist said this: within the next few days, as he banged his hands on his desk for emphasis.
Okay. It's like a very Bernie Sanders kind of thing to do.
God, I love Bernie.
Okay.
You're going to have the granddaddy of all UFO sightings. This sighting will occur in Washington or New York. Probably Washington. Lo and behold, front page of the New York Times, July 22nd, 1952. Flying objects near Washington spotted by both pilots and radar. Air Force reveals reports of something, perhaps saucers, traveling slowly but jumping up and down.
Jumping up and down.
Do you have like a voice modulator that can turn my voice old-timey?
Yeah, of course I do.
Really?
Yeah, of course I do.
Not like old people, but like...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, who do you think you're talking to?
Okay, all right, make me sound old-timey. All right. Washington, July 21st. The Air Force disclosed tonight it had received reports of an eerie visitation by unidentified aerial objects, perhaps a new type of flying saucer, over the vicinity of the nation's capital. For the first time, so far as has been reported, the objects were picked up by radar, indicating actual substance rather than mere light. In addition, they were described as traveling at a slow 130 miles per hour, instead of with the incredible swiftness attributed to earlier saucers, although at times they shot up and down. They were also described as hovering in one position. The Air Force said no planes were sent out to intercept the objects. And no sightings were reported by Operation Skywatch, the round-the-clock ground observer operation now underway around the northern arc of the United States. This is because it was the Cold War.
Sure.
The Air Force said it had received only a preliminary report and therefore did not know why no attempted interception had been made. The Air Traffic Control Center at Washington National Airport, just across the Potomac River from the Capitol, reported that its radar operators had picked up 8 of the slow-moving objects around midnight last Saturday. They were flying in the vicinity of nearby Andrews Air Force Base. The center said Capital Airlines Flight 807, southbound from National Airport, had reported seeing 7 objects between Washington and Martinsburg, West Virginia, at 3:15 a.m. the same night. Officials of Capital Airlines said the pilot of Flight 807, Captain Casey Pierman of Detroit, a veteran of 17 years' service with the company, had spotted the objects and described them in these words: "They were like falling stars without tails." Captain Pierman, flying at normal cruising speed of 180 to 200 miles per hour, reported that 3 of the objects, which had the appearance of bright lights, were seen traveling with tremendous speed. No especial attention was paid to those, he reported to company officials, because those 3 could have been taken for falling stars. Later, 3 bright lights were observed, he reported, flying horizontally and fast at a tremendous height. They were watched from 3 to 5 seconds. The pilot said he hadn't the slightest idea what the things were. The 8 objects picked up by Air Force radar were said to have been traveling at slightly more than 100 miles per hour. The Air Traffic Control Center said another airliner, Capital National Airlines Flight 610, had reported observing a light following it from Herndon, California, to within 4 miles of National Airport. The Air Force spokesman said that neither the center nor headquarters here had yet received reports on sightings said to have been made last Friday in the areas of Burlington, Vermont, South Portland, Maine, and Staten Island, New York. 2 persons on Staten Island reported seeing saucers about 10:15 p.m. Friday night. The objects, described as silvery in color, tinged with red on the rims, were reported flying in a V formation of 5.
Ducks fly together.
Do you remember about Kenneth Arnold? Talked about that too?
Kenny Arnold, really?
Oh, yeah. Said Miss Josephine Hetzel, I almost fainted when I looked up at the sky and saw what looked to me like 5 large dinner plates flying through the sky. Frank Godner said he saw them too, flying like geese.
Well,
they gave off a glow and didn't make a sound.
Could have been geese.
He said. At about the same hour, 3 New York residents reported sighting similar objects circling rapidly over Central Park. So it turns out that scientist was right. They went to both places. It wasn't even just Washington. It was both of them.
That's really interesting. And about 40 years later, Coach Gordon Bombay used the same tactic while he was coaching the Mighty Ducks.
No, don't even.
Former Minnesota
Do you really
lawyer.
not remember when I talked about Arnold and the Flying V?
I don't even know who Kenneth Arnold is at this point.
Maybe Mighty Ducks. So there are a lot of movies that have like subliminal UFO stuff inserted, and maybe Mighty Ducks is one of them.
The knuckle puck has nothing to do with, well, I don't know, actually.
Maybe that's what happened to what's-his-name that ended up addicted to meth and on the street.
Oh, that was such a sad.
Maybe he tried to spill the beans.
I don't have...
Actually, I heard that he's doing better. I heard someone that, like, he was in rehab and...
No one knows what we're talking about.
Sorry.
Goldberg.
It's a very sad story about Goldberg.
Yeah.
All right. So pretty freaking weird, right, guys?
Yeah.
Right? And we will have that article, the actual picture of it, in the show notes of this episode of Frightday.com, of course. There were articles all over the country. But it was a second sighting a week later that caused peak chaos in 1952. Albert Chopp, who was then a spokesman with the Pentagon and had the job of answering questions about UFOs, said that he was awakened by a call on the evening of July 26th.
Phone sound. No, those are just notes for myself.
Oh. I mean, I'm a pretty good sound effects
No, you
person.
are absolutely not.
Okay. Byron, I have not been able to find audio of this.
Okay.
But I do have the written transcript.
Well, why don't you send it my way?
Oh, perfect. So Albert Chopp was interviewed for an oral history in 1999, and we've got this amazing transcript where he talks about exactly what happened on that evening of July 26th, 1952. Now, Byron, I will be the interviewer. You are Mr. Chopp.
I'm Albert Chopp. What's he look like? I gotta get into character.
Okay, hold on. I'll send you a picture.
Oh, this guy.
Oh, he looks like such a jolly guy.
Ah.
He looks so nice. Look at those squinty eyes, that big old smile.
Albert Chopp. All right.
You ready?
Yeah. I got a call that night. I'm not going to do a voice. I'm not a character.
Do a voice.
I'm not a character actor. I can't do this. I got a call that night from Ray Nathan, who was the information officer for the Federal Aeronautics Administration. Aeronautics Administration. Got this. Yeah, he was the information man, and he, in his capacity, got word from the people at Washington National that they had these UFOs on radar. This was at midnight. I remember it was midnight because I looked at the clock and I thought it was a hell of a time for somebody to get me out of bed. I probably lit a cigarette because everyone smoked then. Ray said they were having these sightings on radar and that there were a lot of press people there. And he didn't know what to do, so would I please come down and take care of the situation? Of course, he knew that was my assignment. So I called Dewey Fortnett.
I bet it's Fournay.
Fournay? Oh, fancy French. And told him, as to do my best of my recollection, I got the word. I called Dewey. Dewey came down, but stopped to pick up this radar expert.
Lieutenant Holden?
Right. That's why I got there before Dewey, because I immediately went down after I had talked to Dewey. So anyway, that's how I got down there ahead of Dewey and Ed Ruppelt.
So Ruppelt's the guy that was in charge of Project Blue Book at this point.
You know, in Dayton, Ohio. So naturally, he couldn't come there. But I think if Ed Ruppelt had been there that night, he would have changed his mind about UFOs.
What was his attitude that you think needed to be changed?
Well, just the sequence of events. The fact that these things were so clear on radar, and the guy that the colonel, that Dewey brought with him, declared that, as far as he was concerned, those were real objects up there. No ground clutter or nothing. I'm going to keep this goo in my throat because I think it's working for the character. And the fact that when we had an intercept come in and those things vanished, the very instant that we could see the planes coming in on the radar scope, the minute we saw the beginning of these guys, the UFOs just disappeared. And I swear it wasn't flies on the radar screen or cigarette ash. They just left.
Stop it!
I'm just saying.
You didn't say that!
These planes hung around and sent one up north, one down south, different parts of Washington. Nobody saw anything. They finally said they were going back to base, to Newcastle. We 10, what? This is, I think it's a mistake in your copy paste.
Could be.
The number 10, we could, this is going great. We could see them go off the scope, and the minute they got off scope, bang, here's the UFO again. You know, I was very apprehensive about that. In fact, I was scared. I don't mind telling you this. It scared me. And I think everybody in the room was very apprehensive.
Why were you frightened? Why was everyone apprehensive?
But before we move away from that comment that he just made, a lot of times they disappear and reappear. That's what happened with the Tic Tac UFO incident, right?
Yes, sir.
Interesting.
Yeah, very common, indicating that there could be something dimensional going on. Just saying.
Well, and we'll talk about, we got to finish this interview. I was frightened because of what happened. I mean, the fact that obviously whatever these things were had intelligence enough to get out of the area when they had an intercept going in. They had to be intelligently controlled.
So that was the thing that got you.
The first thing that got me. The thing I think that got me was when they went off the scope. These things came back then and now.
So now they're playing a game with you.
Well, there was a game that frightened me. And I think everybody in that room was very apprehensive because we looked at each other. We didn't know what to do other than sit here and get cancer. About 3 hours later, when we got the second intercept up and sent one guy up around the north part of the city, he didn't see anything. But Patterson, down in the other quadrant down there, flew right into the middle of 4 of them. And he actually said, "They're closing in on me. What shall I do?" Well, what the hell is he going, what shall I do? What was I going to tell him? I'm a civilian. I'm not going to tell an Air Force pilot to fire at the damn thing or anything. I didn't say anything. Nobody said anything. All of a sudden, these things began to move away from him. And he said, "They're gone." The next minute or two, he said, "I'm returning to base." And he did. Well, he went back to Newcastle. And these things hung around all night long, till about 4:30 or 5 in the morning. I talked to Lieutenant Patterson. I wrote down air-to-ground conversations between the radar controllers and the pilot. We didn't get anything from one pilot. But Patterson, I wrote down all our conversations with him. And I told him, I said, I got to the point where I said I was going to write a report to the command post about what happened that night. He's rambling, so it's really hard for me to kind of figure out what he's saying here. To the Air Force command post at the Pentagon, I said I was going to delete that question. What shall I do? Well, eventually he let it go himself because I didn't sneak that into my report. And of course that question, what shall I do, I didn't put into the report, but I did file a report. I went back to the Pentagon at 6 o'clock in the morning and wrote down the sequence of air-ground conversations and sent it over to the command post. And I went home and went to bed. Moreover, he said, I can't deny that I said that. He said, you know, if you're flying in the pitch dark, flying at 600 miles an hour, and you witness what I witnessed, you're liable to say anything. That was his response.
Yeah, what were the reactions the next day inside the Air Force and the Defense Departments?
Well, they were all concerned about what had happened. Nobody had any answers. They were all floundering for an answer, and that's why General Samford had the press conference. But at the conference, he intimated that the radar could pick up ground cluster, and no doubt that this was probably temperature inversion, and kiss it off that way. Which is a fun thing that we should probably start saying more.
I like that.
But there wasn't any temperature inversion. That was his response to a query that could be an answer. I don't believe that was the answer because I've seen the temperature inversion on radar and it doesn't look anything like that. These things are just as solid a return as you get from an actual flight. They look the same. The only difference is that they moved, possibly at speeds that this aircraft can't make, because they would jump sometimes, a whole inch. One sweep of the radar, they were holding.
So what he's talking about is, like, if you think about, I don't know, yeah, it's spinning around,
It's a
and like in
sweep.
one sweep,
Yeah.
that spot has jumped a full inch on the radar, which is crazy.
I don't know what a radar. Sam would know.
Yeah, Sam would know.
He's
But
working.
and just a quick side note. So they're talking about temperature inversions. Obviously, that's, you know, one of the things that UFOs were written off as pretty frequently. This particular incident has been investigated many times by many different groups, and there was actually a group at, I believe it was UC Boulder, also in the 20th century, not 21st. So it's not super recent, but they supposedly did an investigation, and on the day of this event, there were records at the weather station near the airport that showed there had not been temperature inversions. But whatever it was, 15 years later, however long it was when Boulder did this research, came back and said they went to records from 2 other weather stations nearby, and one of them said that there had been temperature inversions. But according to, if you read this whole interview with our buddy Albert here, Mr. Chop, he'll tell you there was no way in hell it was a temperature inversion. And if that was showing up down the road, it could be because somebody put it there. But the day of, it was very clear, and all the weather people they were talking to confirmed that it could not have been a temperature inversion. So that's something that comes up and is important to remember, because that's one of the common debunking theories for this one.
I'm with you.
This gets into the how far it would jump a little bit more. You think they were moving fast?
Oh boy.
Faster than anything near the planes?
They were moving real fast, and they jumped 1 inch, I'll tell you.
How many miles? What would a normal plane look like on radar?
A normal plane would look like it's at the same spot. When moving very slow, I think maybe 5 sweeps to move an inch, maybe 10 sweeps. But this was instantaneous, almost as if it was a computer error.
No, oh my God, you don't understand. That's not the way it works, Byron.
It's true, they were, I mean...
At one point during that time, the press was ordered to leave. Can you explain that situation?
Because we were about to have an intercept, as far as I was concerned, and I had no authority to let them stay. You got to look at it from that standard.
So you guys were convinced that you're going to have some kind of contact.
That's right. We were going to have an intercept. We can see it coming, and I didn't have the authority to let them stay. That's all. It's very simple. I did let them come in and see the radar scope and see the unknown objects, but when I had the intercept, I made them leave. Life magazine advised me that I wouldn't have a job the next day.
Life magazine?
Yep.
What did they have to say about it?
They were pissed off like a motherfucker. And then
Don't put those words in Mr. Chop's mouth.
And then the next thing he said, he was going to call my boss. I said, I'll get him on the phone for you. So I got Colonel Searles out of bed, and I told him what was going on. The last thing I heard him say to the reporter is, "You won't have a job either." That was it.
To Searles?
Yeah, so I didn't pay any attention to that. Then I said, fine. I said, great, you can have the job.
Were you involved in preparations for General Samford's press conference?
No, except to alert the press that there was going to be a press conference.
Was there a briefing for the press before the actual conference, kind of like a background briefing?
No, just that it's going to be at the Four Seasons Total Landscape.
No, another curious thing is, Ruppelt was not in Washington at that time.
He was not. He came the next day.
Okay, so a little background on that, guys.
4 Seasons.
Best thing that's ever happened.
That's pretty funny.
Did you see the fabulous meme from today? Because that was my favorite meme that came out all day.
Oh, the media?
No. Joke all you want, but Rudy's prepared to fight this all the way to the Supreme Courtyard by Marriott.
That's fun. That's good. That's really good. I didn't see that meme.
Okay,
Don't usually like memes.
It was pretty good. I love all memes. So here's the deal with Ruppelt. There are a lot of different stories about how he was or was not involved in the 1952 White House UFO incident.
Okay.
All right. We've got this very strange situation because everybody's on high alert for the Cold War. Ruppelt's been investigating UFOs, which have been coming in at an alarming pace, especially in the last month or two before this incident. Some people say that he came into D.C. for something completely unrelated and read about this in the newspaper when he landed, tried to investigate, and couldn't get the clearance to rent a car and stick around to do some research on what the hell happened. Other people say that he knew exactly what was going on, and in fact he flew in specifically for the press conference that he was part of covering up exactly what happened on that day. Lots of conflicting information out there, as there often is with these types of things. But yeah, Ruppelt, this is the story on his side of things. And this is actually in a cool Washington Post article about it that they wrote for one of the anniversaries of the incident. But he supposedly flew in on unrelated business. Well, not completely unrelated. It was related to Project
Blue Book, of
Blue
course.
Book, but
Yeah.
not related to this incident, and started reading the newspapers. In fact, the headline of the Washington Post said, "Radar spots air mystery objects here." And the Washington Daily News said, "Air Force saucer expert will probe sightings here." So Ruppelt's reading these papers, and he asks one of his colleagues who the heck this expert is that's coming in. And his colleague said, "Oh, it's you."
What a fun way
And yeah. So he apparently went to the Pentagon. Air Force people, especially the higher ups, were really concerned, both because they had been so widely cited and because people were really freaked out that this could be Russian. Nobody had any clue what had been in the air on the 19th, which was the first sighting, and nobody had any clue about these. Newspapers were demanding answers. We heard a little bit about that from Mr. Chop's interview there, that life was getting real frisky. They had kind of, I guess, an upper hand on this topic in general because the country was seeing them as the front and center authority since they were the only giant media to report it.
The only people brave enough.
Yeah, they were brave. They were super brave. But Ruppelt wrote, and this is again from his memoir, "Reporters were now beginning to put on a squeeze by threatening to call congressmen, and nothing chills blood faster in the military." So back then, the military was afraid of congressmen. That isn't really the way that it is now.
No, they kind of work together.
I feel like nobody wants to work together anymore. But so he volunteered to stay overnight to try and go out to the controllers at Washington National and also to Andrews Air Force Base, called the Pentagon's transportation section so he could travel to these airports. And this is the part that just doesn't sit well with me. But he was told that only colonels and generals can get cars. He called 2 generals, but it was after 4 p.m. and they were gone for the day. He went to a finance office to try and get permission to rent a car. He was told to take a bus.
So then he just did Uber Pool instead?
Well, like, here's the thing. He basically went rounds with this woman at the finance office. Okay, well, I can't use my per diem. I only get $9 per day. That's not enough to rent my own car, and it's not enough to take a cab, and I don't want to ride all the buses, and blah, 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 blah.
And he turned down a ride with Gus Polinski, the Polka King, right?
Never turned down that ride. The woman then informed Ruppelt that his orders were to fly back to Ohio that night unless he got those orders amended. And if he didn't get those orders amended and stayed around, he would be AWOL. It just seems weird that there wasn't somebody else he could call. Like, he's just going to essentially take orders from this lady in the finance office. And if he really wanted to investigate, I don't know, like, I'm trying to put myself, all right, I'm Fox Mulder. I'm working for the government. I'm investigating UFOs.
But you're in the basement.
I know.
They don't have
But
the
just think, if you
budget.
get out of the basement and you're in DC and they're letting you investigate, I don't care if they give me money. I don't care if I have to ride 17 buses. I'm going to go check that shit out. There's no way. There's just no way. So that sits a little bit weird with me. Now, this was after the first sighting. After the second sighting, he's sitting at home back in Dayton, gets a call on the 26th saying that the UFOs are back. And it was a reporter who called him. Nobody from the government, but a reporter. And the reporter wanted to know from Ruppelt, well, what the hell is the Air Force going to do about this? And apparently Ruppelt's reply was, "I have no idea what the Air Force is doing. In all probability, it's doing nothing." And then he hung up.
What a badass. And what a freaking gig Ed Ruppelt has.
I mean, it was a good gig.
I would do it for free.
According to some reports, there were as many as a dozen blips. Obviously, we heard Mr. Chop's report on it, but it's super creepy. There was an Air Force B-25 that was passing through the area. The controllers specifically asked the B-25 to check out some of the radar targets. And the B-25 was not able to see what they were talking about. This is when the idea of a temperature inversion came in, but it was again refuted by people immediately at that time. And we're talking about some pretty experienced pilots. Like, you hear that guy who says, "They're closing in on me. What shall I do?" Okay, clearly that guy's not going to look out and see a temperature inversion coming towards him. Like, especially not for different, it just makes no sense. That's clearly not what was happening. A civilian plane, actually multiple civilian planes, reported objects in the air. Another thing that's a little bit strange about the incident is when the controllers called for interceptors, so basically like military planes to come out and see what the hell was going on, they came from Newcastle rather than one of the nearby bases, because there were 2 bases that were near. There's some story about their runways were being rebuilt at the time. I don't really know, but that seemed a little bit strange too.
I don't know. That seems like a reasonable thing.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So remember in Chop's account, he was talking about Patterson and what Patterson had said. Here is that pilot, William Patterson, and this is one of his quotes. I tried to make contact with the bogies below 1,000 feet. I was at my maximum speed, but I ceased chasing them because I saw no chance of overtaking them. Pretty crazy. I mean, all hell has broken loose. We've got reports all over the country. Cedar Rapids Gazette says saucers swarm over Capitol. Pretty terrifying.
I mean, do we know exactly where these UFOs went over?
Yeah, there was one point where they actually were directly over the White House. They flew over the whole Capitol area.
Wow, okay. And the beam came down and blew it up.
Yeah. As you might imagine, the president wanted to know what in the hell was going on. And that was particularly problematic because nobody seemed to have an answer for him.
And this man, Harry Truman.
Harry S.
Oh no, he's a bit of a spook.
I mean, yes. But, okay, hold on. Stick with me here for a minute. The president of the United States Rocket Society, Robert L. Farnsworth, actually warned President Truman directly not to attack the UFOs. This is what he sent in a telegraph. Should they be extraterrestrial, such actions might result in the gravest consequences, as well as possibly alienating us from beings of far superior powers. Friendly contact should be sought as long as possible. Truman was totally confused. He asked Brigadier General Robert Landry, the great-great-grandfather of Caleb Jones Landry.
It's Caleb Landry Jones.
Well, you know, he switched his name around.
Okay.
To find out he asked this guy to find out what the UFOs were, and so Landry called Ruppelt, who at this point had now flown back from Dayton to the Pentagon. He said the sightings could be weather-related mirages, but he didn't really know. Even Major General John Samford, who we will hear from in a moment, he was the Air Force's Director of Intelligence, he had no idea. But he decided because of all the hullabaloo, he sure as hell better call a press conference and calm people down. It was the largest press conference at the Pentagon since World War II.
I am here to discuss the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1,000 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources. Of this great mass of reports, we have been able adequately to explain the great bulk of them, explain them to our own satisfaction. We've been able to explain them as hoaxes, as erroneously identified friendly aircraft, as meteorological or electronic phenomena, or as light aberrations. However, there have been a certain percentage of this volume of reports that have been made by credible observers of relatively incredible things. It is this group of observations that we now are attempting to resolve. Our basic difficulty in dealing with these is that there is no measurement of them that makes it possible for us to put them in any pattern that would be profitable for a deliberate, custom sort of analysis to take the next step. We have, as of date, come to only one firm conclusion with respect to this remaining percentage, and that is that it does not contain any pattern of purpose or of consistency that we can relate with to any conceivable threat to the United States. We can say that the recent sightings are in no way connected with any secret development by any department of the United States.
So some of the things he mentions, I don't know how much of the clip you're going to play. I recommend you play as much of it. I mean, as much as the actual talking as possible. But I mean, he talks about UFO sightings dating to biblical times, and he mentions UFO sightings in 1846, but he never directly addressed the UFO sightings that this press conference was so obviously in response to. he gave all of these random anecdotes about like, oh, in 1950 in Japan, radar picked up a flock of ducks.
I'm hoping that's not a racist term for something.
No, like literally, just ducks. So in other words, he's not going to address the actual situation at hand. For whatever reason, his roundabout not explaining or even addressing the current issue, but instead talking about UFOs in general and saying that it could be all sorts of random different things, got people away from the situation at hand, and suddenly the number of reports dropped. That was kind of the end of the hullabaloo, so to speak.
You know why Truman's been giving me the creeps? I forgot that he was the one that formed Majestic 12 in 1947 by executive order.
Oh, yeah. But that was in response to Roswell.
Yeah.
He also formed the Air Force in response to that. So, I mean, like, you can't give it, whatever. That's fine. You don't have to do that. Yeah, so pretty interesting. A lot of different takes on this. Some more articles that we'll definitely put in the show notes for you guys to investigate. But I feel like it's sometimes hard to imagine a time where this stuff was published by places like, well, I guess we've kind of come full circle now, right? Because the New York Times is reporting on ATIP. But, you know, for the, 70 years in between, that was just a preposterous notion. But once upon a time, this stuff was taken really seriously. It wasn't fringe stuff. It was very front and center. And yes, certainly part of that was because of the Cold War. But it was also because there were very real things seen by very reputable people, especially pilots. And I find it interesting that the pilots at the center of this whole story made it much more credible. And that's why it stays as one of these touch points in US UFO history. And now we're looking again at big reports that have gained traction because of pilots at the center of them that have credibility. You know, next time you see a pilot, thank your pilot. Thank the Phoenicians.
Well, thank you, pilots, and thank you, Kelly, so much for that report.
Yeah, I mean, I was worried that we were going to have to, like, call them back. Of course, we might need to. Somebody might need to use some kind of, like, a beam to get Orangey out.
Oh, please,
in January, but
I'm just dinging the bell for you. Can't do it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay. Well, before you keep talking about that,
yeah,
we got a lot to talk about.
About a movie film?
A little flick we watched called Possessor.
We hope you're enjoying your visit here this evening. Now, on with the show.
Why was it called Possessor Uncut? I didn't understand that at all.
Well, because of all the c***s in it. Possessor.
Were there?
You didn't see the penises in this thing?
I feel like I remember one, but now I'm not even remembering whose it was.
One erect, one flaccid. It's a film.
Oh, yeah, during the weird sex scene. Yeah, I remember that now.
2020 sci-fi horror film written and directed by Brandon Cronenberg. It's an international co-production with the UK and US and Canada. Stars Andrea Riseborough, who I like a lot, Christopher Abbott, and a handful of other folks, including Sean Bean and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Can we talk about
well, I gotta do the
Christopher
synopsis.
Abbott being It Comes at Night?
Oh, sure. We can do that in just a second. I got to do the synopsis.
I also think it's important to clarify that Andrea Riseborough is Mandy.
We're going to do that in a sec. Got to do this
Okay,
part.
well, that's important stuff.
Yeah. Tazia Voss, an elite corporate assassin, takes control of other people's bodies using brain implant technology to execute high-profile targets. Andrea Riseborough, Mandy, also a handful of other things. She was in Nocturnal Animals. I think wasn't she in the new remake of The Grudge? She was the detective in that.
Oh, yeah, and I thought she was really good in it. I know that people didn't love that very much, but I liked it more, and I thought she was great as Muldoon.
She did a great job. She was also in a film called Nancy that I like a lot that came out the same year as Mandy.
Also Death of Stalin, which was hilarious.
You like that film? I haven't seen it.
Yes, I love it.
Is it scary?
No, it was very funny.
Christopher Abbott kicked off his career in 2011 with a great little cult film, literal cult film, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, which I enjoyed quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, we got Riseborough in a Nicolas Pesce film, The Grudge remake, and we got this dude in Piercing. which was another fun film that Nicholas did. He was also in First Man, and you mentioned this to me, a film I always seem to forget. It Comes at Night, which we saw the world premiere of.
Yeah.
I believe it was the
It's
Overlook.
really good.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Jason Leigh in this reminds me a little bit of the role that she played in Annihilation.
And Sean Bean, I think I called him Sam Bean. Did I say that?
Sam Bean?
I don't
know,
like,
but
I feel like I may have said that.
He played a royal a-hole in this, but he was real good at it.
Well, he also played royalty as Ned Stark.
Oh, God, that was really bad.
Game of Thrones.
It's funny because I just always associate him with Bond. Isn't that weird?
See, that's the thing is I've never seen those films.
I know. Don't keep reminding me. It makes me hate you so much.
Angry every time. All right.
Every time.
So I entered into this a little apprehensive.
Why?
Well, a couple of things.
You're not a Cronenberg crony?
I don't know if that means
he does look a little bit like a poor man's Borat.
You're talking about Brandon Cronenberg, the son of David Cronenberg, legendary body horror filmmaker.
Yeah, look at his picture. Tell me that doesn't look like a poor man's Borat.
Brandon Cronenberg. Wow, woo! Would you look at that? I don't think he looks like a Borat. He looks...
I mean, I like him. I like him a lot more than you do, apparently.
No, I think he's fine. I was talking about runtime, and it's just like a gorgeous film. It's quiet, and it's like...
Oh, so beautiful.
It kicks off with like a lot of really intense plot pieces that made me be like, we're not going to be able to talk about this film without going like step by step by step. But as the movie went on, I felt like that element kind of faded for me. The plot simplified in a really interesting way. They just had a lot of ground to cover at the top. So
yeah.
When you called, I was 20 minutes in. I was like, oh, it feels like I just started. So obviously it wasn't dragging in any real way.
Yeah, and this has been on my radar to watch for a while. Mm-hmm. I love the poster for it. It looks super spooky. It is not at all what I expected from looking at the poster.
Okay.
And in fact, the first indication that I had it was something other than what my brain went to by looking at the poster was when Byron said, oh, it's kind of Matrix-y.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of talk Sam into it. That same day that my children went to my parents' house, and poor creature had to be told that we had another 2 months with our current president.
Okay, and she didn't take it very well. Yeah.
It was that same afternoon where we had
six.
all this kid-free time, and I was like, Sam, let's watch this. It's supposed to be really, really good. And he was like, I was like, no, let's watch it. It's going to be good. But he actually sat down to watch it with me.
Was he a fan of Brandon Cronenberg's other film, Antiviral?
I don't know if he's seen it. I don't know that he has. I mean, he knew about it when I told him which one it was. He was like, oh, yeah, I know about that.
2012, it's got that Caleb Landry Jones. It's about selling those viruses from celebrities because it's cool to get sick from celebrities.
Like 15 minutes into this, he's like, this is pretty good. And then like a half hour in, he's like, this movie's really good.
Damn, I'm having fun with this thing.
Yeah, he was very, very excited, which is also makes me, because, I mean, I think we've talked before about Kelly's Venn diagram of enjoyment, and it's a little bit larger. And so anytime Sam watches something that he enjoys too, I'm like, oh, this is great. But yeah, I just love Andrea Riseborough, and I think that Jennifer Jason Leigh is so unsettling. Like very, very good, but like just...
She's a great actress.
Like I'm never comfortable when she's on screen. I'm just
I'd have to flip through her filmography, but I mean, the scenes that she is in that I recall, she's very intense, even when she's like quiet. And
it just makes me uneasy.
Well, but before we even see her or Andrea, we get a pretty fun cold open. A woman named Holly disconnects from a machine, goes to a party in a uniform as a hostess, and stabs damn near through a man that resembles Harvey Weinstein quite a bit.
Yeah, actually, very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
It gets...
that thing was a little bit confusing to me because I'm like, what the hell are they wearing? What is going on?
Yeah, it looked like almost like a volleyball
suits?
Uniform or something. But they were hostesses at this thing. They were working this function where these elite rich folks were eating... probably Little Smokies. You heard that they had pigs in a blanket at Trump's thing?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty great. Sorry. I'm back here. Amazing. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I mean, she stabs the hell out of them, and then does she do something to an eye right off the bat? Is that right?
No, neck. This went into the neck. But like the very first kill, I read the synopsis. I'm like, okay, so we're going to be dealing with a serial killer or an assassin.
It's just fancy word for...
The first kill, you realize...
serial killer.
That this woman is fucked up.
Yeah.
This isn't a simple kill. This is like a savage fury rage death.
Even Girder is her name, Jennifer Jason Leigh's character. She's shocked as well by the brutality of this kill, because what happens is after she says, pull me out. And
she's not able to kill herself.
Oh, is it she couldn't overcome the okay.
She couldn't pull the trigger, which is why she tried to shoot herself. She couldn't do it, so she did death by cop instead.
Yes. Okay, well.
Like, it wasn't that she didn't want to, like, pull out. It was that you get this feeling that whatever weird sci-fi method they're using to occupy another human's body for the purpose of assassinations, that after a while the line starts getting blurred between the two people and shit starts getting complicated.
So we have to, I guess, talk about the technology a little bit.
So she lays in this weird bed head scanning thing, and they hook her up. She goes in and occupies this other human.
She's a possessor, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it's like a scientifically driven possession.
Some sort of, again, combination of The Matrix and Inception, I guess.
Yeah. Which I think was a cool concept. I really do.
Sure.
There's a lot of guesswork going on. This was not a super clear-cut movie, which I appreciated, because since it was a little bit longer, I mean, it's like still less than 2 hours. We aren't talking like crazy long.
No.
But, you know, you get used to movies like Host and you're like, okay, well,
that was like a 49-minute film.
Yeah.
Very different. The world we're in, near future or alternate world, it's interesting. It's surprising that it's as human as it is, you know, like the things haven't really changed, just the technology.
So it's definitely not distant future. It's like maybe next 20 years, it felt like.
And Tasia, when she's pulled out, they go through this debrief thing where they are asked to identify items in a box. Some of them belong to them, some of them don't. And this is a way to make sure that people aren't losing themselves in this process.
And there's also some subtle indicators of, like, not just their memories, but also their personality, like the way they react to each of the items.
I mean, when you're controlling heads of other people, and the longer they stay in, the more their brain degrades or merges.
And just the more they lose of themselves, essentially.
Yeah. One of the major plot points in this is her family life is very affected by this, so much so that I believe that she had separated from her partner and then was lying to her. What are we calling Jennifer Jason Leigh's role? She's like...
her boss.
I think it's her boss?
Oh, yeah, it was definitely her boss.
She was lying to her about her relationship and that she had kind of rekindled or attempted to rekindle the relationship that she had with her ex-husband. I kind of got the sense that Girder didn't want her to do that.
Well, no, because she was a much better employee for her. She was more on point in her job when she could completely disconnect from any tether she had to her life outside of the host that she was inside of.
Yeah, making the big
She was a better assassin that way.
That's true, and that's kind of all that matters.
Yeah, that's why she's very unsettling.
She acts like they're friends, but she knows what she wants.
Oh, yeah, it's total... I mean, we can't... I know we're not going to be able to give spoilers, but you see as the movie goes on just how little Girder cares.
Sure. Well, let's bring in Colin Tate real quick, played by Christopher Abbott, because we got to talk about his performance. This is the next person that Andrea is possessoring, and he is a cocaine dealer who is marrying into a wealthy family.
Punk coke dealer that ended up partnering up with one of his clients who's this super rich kid whose dad basically, Sam and I kept talking about how it reminded us of By and Large in WALL-E. The dad seemed to own some company that was pretty much omnipresent.
Of course, bring in a Disney reference.
Always.
Yeah, great idea.
Sorry.
It's fine. The interesting part of this is we get more of an idea of what the process is. Like Tasia spies on Colin for a while before possessing his body, and she like goes as far as to learn like how to make love like him and the things that he says, and spicy little scene,
like to be able to like step in and have it not be obvious that it's not him.
Yeah, but this is one of the reasons they think they call this Possessor Uncut, because they'll...
You want to hear something funny?
What's up?
The guy that plays the husband, Rossif Sutherland.
Yep.
Do you know who he is?
He's the son of Donald Sutherland, I guess.
Yeah, he's Kiefer's brother.
So look at that.
Yeah.
I think he did a great job with what he did. What else is there to talk about in this?
I mean, the problem is the things that I want to talk about, we can't, the rest of the things, because it's definitely too spoilery.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't even say it crosses into not safe for Kelly world.
I would leave that part out. And I did watch the film before you, and I thought that it would actually be a disservice if I gave you that content warning.
I mean, it was not great, but I survived it.
Yeah.
I like Cronenberg. The little that I've seen, he just hasn't done a ton, and I'm hoping that he's got more on the horizon.
8 years between is not
Yeah, it's
not
just
great.
quite a spread.
He had a short
I mean,
in
and I get it because he writes his pieces, and it's got to take a lot of energy to do that. So I
Especially
do
in
understand.
a story like this. And I mean, with an eyebrow ring like he has, I'm not surprised that this felt so much like a Matrix type film. And I think we've come full circle. You know, Mr. Robot was Fight Club. I don't see anything wrong with Possessor leaning towards the themes that we saw in, what was it, 1999? I don't know.
Making a new one. Maybe he'll help with it.
Maybe.
This was a solid movie, I think, because it had really powerful acting, a very tight script.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there wasn't a lot of extraneous dialogue, as some horror movies will do, which I think can very quickly turn it away from something really powerful into something kind of laughable. So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I also just think the story is interesting. I mean, it's a unique idea. It, like you said, it's similar to some Matrix type things, but it's applied in a way that at least I haven't seen it applied. And the direction it went, it was not afraid to get bloody.
Oh, no.
I think, Byron, you warned me that it was going to be a bit gory, and it certainly was.
Ultra violent kind of stuff.
Oh my God. Like,
eye pops, teeth flopping everywhere, stabbing through a man almost.
Yeah. So that was all pretty interesting. And it was just really beautiful. And there were some cool scenes that, God, I don't want to ruin it, but there were some very interesting scenes that dealt with questions of reality as it applies to this weird high-tech capability to possess someone else. Mm-hmm. They had some really beautifully shot scenes to deal with some of those questions, which I thought was really interesting. And I've come to the point where I'm pretty sure that I'll watch Andrea Riseborough in anything. She looks so different in her IMDb picture.
She's beautiful.
Well, it's not that she's beautiful. She's not beautiful elsewhere, but like, she's one of those actresses that it took me 10 minutes to believe that this was Mandy because she looks so different. All of these different places she pops up, she is amazingly capable of transforming her appearance, which I think that coupled with her really amazing acting skills just makes her really fun to watch. She's also making a movie called To Leslie, which looks interesting.
To Leslie, huh?
Yeah, she's got a few coming up that I'm excited to watch. It looks like she is getting recognized for how much acting talent she has. Alpha Gang, a group of aliens known as the Alpha Gang, are sent on a mission to conquer Earth.
Come on.
Yep, I'm very sorry. For all of those reasons, and because I was looking forward to it so much. I mean, Possessor is one of those that I don't know that it quite elevates to the level of getting nominated for like a Best Picture Oscar or anything like that.
What are you talking about?
The cinema, I thought the cinematography was like,
yeah, I'm not going to fight that, but Best Picture.
Phenomenally off the charts. Like, I would not be surprised if it was recognized in some pretty major way for that.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see.
I give Possessor 7.2 paring knives.
Yeah, this has been a long ride for Brandon Cronenberg with this film. It premiered at Sundance in 2020, but this was shot in 2018. And I know it's a joint production between 3 different countries, but it's got like, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 production companies attached to this as well. I don't know why it required so many hands to get this out. Oh. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it was the ultra-violent and sexualized nature of the film, but the talent is undeniable, so I don't see why it took so long. But I do think Neon, as a production company, the co-production with Tim League and Tom Quinn, I think it's the right home for this, and I'm so happy that it's finally come out. It's unfortunate that it did it right in the middle of this dang pandemic. But yeah, I really did enjoy Possessor. A film like this could have very easily leaned into the heady, almost mysterious nature of itself, but it did things in like a way that was well paced and didn't ruminate so much on the beauty of it. It takes a lot of talent to do something like that. That wax melting, the more practical effects, the mask popping scene as well was really cool.
So cool.
The little boy's toy. What was that thing? Was that a
Yeah, I don't know, but it was cool too.
ship captain or something? I wrote it down, but I don't have it in front of me. Really creepy and almost futuristic in a way that some of the elements of It Follows were. Dreamy, but still, I don't know. I really dug this film. And for all those reasons, I give Possessor 7.5. Was that a fire poker?
I think it was, yes.
Fire pokers. And those are our thoughts on Possessor, which is available now on VOD. So go check it out. And once you have, let us know what you thought. You can reach us in a couple of places still. Twitter at Frightday, Instagram still a thing, also at Frightday, or you could send us an email, contact@frightday.com. Leave a comment below the show notes in this episode of Frightday.com. We're on Gab. You can find us on Parler. Any other alt-fright?
We're everywhere. No, we're nowhere alt-right. We will never be anywhere alt-right.
You can reach us on Telegram.
But we are no longer, at least presently, on Facebook. Who knows? Maybe by the time this airs, we will have rectified the situation. I don't know.
But yeah, I guess if you're in the Facebook group, you can have a conversation about it. I got sad again. All right.
Oh my God.
If you like our show and want to help us make it even better, grab something spooky at shop.frightday.com. It's the season of giving. It's time to spread the word by buying someone a shirt about something they don't know about quite yet. No better way to trick someone into liking a podcast other than buying them merchandise of it before they know anything about it. That seems like a terrible gift. Why would I recommend that?
I mean, I think it's a great gift. I'm going to give those gifts to some people.
Just give people t-shirts with our podcast name on it if they don't even know about it.
That Nessie shirt is freaking gorgeous.
Yeah. That's all I got. It's getting late.
Yeah.
But there's plenty more for you to feast upon when you join the Frightday Society at patreon.com/Frightday. What is it? It's a lot of things. But above all else, it's a community of like-minded individuals committed to horror, hauntings, cryptids, conspiracies, aliens, and true crime. Pretty much all things frightening. You want another episode each week. You'll love Behind the Screams. This week, I kind of teased this idea, and I think we need to do it sooner than later. We need to... I listened to my introduction to the Laura Eisenhower interview, and I'm not as excited about it as I was then. Because if you're following her on Twitter, she has gone full QAnon.
Oh, she's gone full off the rails.
Yeah, I don't know what to do. I think we need to have a conversation.
I'm fine with that.
Originally, it was going to be
you bet.
decompressing from the Laura Eisenhower interview. We never got to that, but now it's... we need to talk about the Laura Eisenhower interview and where she is now, and I think that's going to be this week's Behind the Screams, if that's okay with you.
Sounds spectacular. I'll be ready for it.
Other things there, bonus episodes of Captain Kelly's Cryptids and Conspiracies, Byron's Serial Corner, The Writer's Room, Toast to Toast PM with Wine Kelly, Cinema Autopsy, and members get access to our new products as well as exclusive members-only items, and that 15% off promo code for everything at shop.frightday.com. And if I'm being honest, guys, and I always am, I never lie to you, you're making my dreams come true. I love doing this. Even if sometimes things get tricky when you go on Twitch and talk about a guy I'm not going to talk about anymore.
Yeah, let's not.
We're inching closer to phase 3. That's our goal that we have of going on Twitch and talking about UFOs. We just need just a handful more of you folks to sign up at patreon.com/Frightday, and then we move there. That's a thing we do. Can't wait to talk about UFOs with y'all. But most helpful of all, you can leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. That is a great way to get us up charts and in new ears, and a couple of people did that recently.
Did they?
Yeah, they love us.
But who?
Thank you. Where the fuck? This is from Seafoam Rush. They say, I fell down the stairs and hit my head, 5 stars, on Frightday. After about 200 episodes, I completely forgot how I even stumbled here. By the way, that listening started about 2 months ago. That's a whole lot of ear candy. Love the elbow nudges, eye rolls, and occasional, mostly Kelly F-bombs and such. All of you are entertaining and likable with a thoughtful insight to the genre. The captain is thorough on the sea. Very nice.
That's very nice.
We have one more from No Bye No Aloha. Says, great content, good times, 5 stars, love the show. Love the chimes. I miss the chimes.
I mean, I miss the chimes too. It's going to be a long-ass time before we get to hear those chimes again.
Yeah. Bring them inside.
I suppose I could.
Get a fan, get the chimes. Until then, though, Kelly, where are you going to be?
I don't really know. I'm going to be on Discord. Because I'm cool now.
Discord.frightday.com.
You can find me on Twitter, Kelly Frightday. You can email me, kelly@frightday.com. Hopefully, I'll see you again on Facebook someday, too.
And I'm at Byron McKoy on Twitter and Instagram, byron@frightday.com. That's my email address. And until next week, where we're going to be covering Brian Bertino's new film, The Dark and the Wicked. I'm Byron.
I'm Kelly.
Don't be a near future assassin and stay scared.
You've been listening to an Audio Wool original, produced by Byron McKoy. Theme music provided by Cemeteries. For more programs like this, visit audiowool.co.
Oh my God, can I tell you an amazing story?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
So the girls have been very excited about Joe Biden and Kamala.
Okay.
And my dad came to pick them up a couple days ago to go hang out with my parents for the evening. They were driving back to my parents' place, and apparently Creature in the back seat was super excited about Joe Biden being the president now. And my dad had to break the news to her that, in fact, he wouldn't be the president for another couple of months because he has to be inaugurated in January.
Yeah.
And Creature was just distraught. And she goes, well, but who's the president now? And so my father had to crush her and say, well, it's still Donald Trump. And she just smacks her forehead and goes, they can't do that to me.
Oh, and she's 5, 6? What?
She's 6, yeah.
Wow, that's a darndest. That's a darndest thing. And she said it.
Thing.
Truly